Right, hello and welcome to the Patron and YouTube channel members live stream on the 17th of November 2019, coming to you in hopefully amazing clarity. I'm using some new live streaming gear that I'll talk about in a moment, but first of all, thank you to all patrons and YouTube channel members for supporting the channel, and that's really what gets the content made pretty much and makes this sustainable. So yes, last time we had a bit of a disaster because Google or YouTube in their infinite wisdom discontinued Google Hangout streaming, which I was using previously, which allowed you to do all sorts of things like share your screen and to change the audio source once you'd started the stream. And they replaced it with a webcam streaming thing where you have to set it up right once and you can't change it later, and that's why I had to scrumble around or whatever and find a mic on a cable because I selected line in and no one could hear me. But now we've got a new live streaming box, which there's green bars. They might go away in a minute. Oh no, they're still there. No, they're going to go away. There, they've gone. The green bars. So I'm actually using a DSLR for streaming. I'm using a box called a Epiphan Video Webcaster X2, which I've borrowed, which takes an HDMI input. It's a network connected device, and that takes an HDMI input. It pairs with your YouTube channel, and there's a button on it, and you click it and it just starts a live stream. So you can go anywhere in the world, connect it to the internet, and it's paired with your YouTube channel and starts a live stream. So I'm actually using my normal camera for filming. I'm using my normal radio mic for audio, HDMI into the box. I've got a little monitor over here which is also HDMI to monitor the output, and that's what the green crosshairs are, because that's actually was on the DSLR screen, and now I've been filming for a bit. They've gone, I think, hopefully. And they've gone on the preview as well, which I've got over here, which is delayed by 15 seconds, which is a bit weird thing to see. I've got the pop-out chat, so if there's any comments or I disappear or the audio stops working, I've put brand new batteries in my radio mics. Hopefully they'll last an hour. I've never used them for that long before. So hopefully everything's going to be good, and I'm going to keep an eye on the screen, and hopefully everything's in amazing clarity, provided there's enough bandwidth. I'm actually going 1080p into the streaming box, which apparently it's capable of. Yes, I haven't streamed with this box. I've done tests, but I don't know what happens. I think it works fine. The person I got it from had used it. The only challenge is it doesn't work with the new live streaming thing. The new live control room in YouTube only works with the legacy events creating thing. So I don't know how long I've been to use it for, but there we go. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we should be much clearer and everything should be good and nothing should go wrong. I still can't share my screen, of course, because unless I unplug the HDMI and plug it into my video card, so we won't be doing that. There we go. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about projects that I've done and what projects are coming up. And first of all, I'm going to talk about Mark Rober's bowling ball a little bit. You've seen his video, I expect, which has had 5 million views in his 9 million subscriber channel. He's pushing quite a lot of traffic to my channel because it was quite a nice promo for me where he literally says, yo, go and subscribe to James Bruton. And at the moment, I think I've gained somewhere upwards of 42,000 subscribers since 9 PM UK time on Thursday when his video went out, which is rather lovely. And they appear to be watching my videos. All the click-through rates have gone up on all my recent videos as they've subscribed, and then YouTube is suggesting those videos to his subscribers that have come over. And I'm hoping that that video will continue to go up past 10 million views and it'll push another 40,000 in. At the moment I'm on 721,000 subscribers and I don't know if I'll get over 800, but hopefully it has some residual effect as well, and hopefully it has a knock-on effect that those subscribers will watch my videos. Views have been a bit poor recently. So I have a bit of a strategy in the videos I've published recently, you'll notice the last few weeks, and what's coming up that I'm about to tell you about is quite a lot of variety. So there was a time when we had sort of open dog every other week and the thumbnails are very similar. I've just basically planned the content to be strategic, so there's lots of different variety. We've got that LED thing last week, we've got a robot dog, we've got whatever else I did recently. So I've got some performance robot stuff coming up. So, you know, there's quite a lot of stuff to see and some projects I'm going to tell you about in a moment. What else? Oh, the Terminator thing, the LED visualizer, team tree. So there's quite a lot of variety and I'm going to carry on with that for a few weeks. There will be some series coming out, but any new series I'm going to try and keep short. And of course I will be going back to open dog at some point, but of course we were not having robot dogs every 2 weeks. It's going to be some significant progress like the last video. Right, I'm just going to keep an eye on my pop-out chat. I think good, it sounds good, and hopefully it looks good, provided I don't run out of bandwidth and my internet doesn't disconnect, we'll all be good. So yes, Mark Rober's bowling ball. So the video, you've seen my video, which has gone out early for patrons and YouTube channel members. You've seen his video, which was generally more concise and to the point. There's still more though. We did a lot more prototypes that he didn't mention, and some things went wrong that he didn't mention and I didn't mention, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The main problem with, so I showed the 3D printed original prototype that I did. That had a massive servo in, the biggest one I could find. So when I started doing this, and I tried to make the prototype to sort of prove the proof of concept, you know, how big is a bowling ball? I was like, it's like this big, right? It's like 12 inches in diameter or something. But the Lulzbot Taz print bed is only just about that, and you can't really print right to the edge without warping. So I ended up making this ball that was as big as it could be. I was like, yeah, that's how big bowling balls are. And it was great and everything. Put a huge servo in it. Big oversized jumbo servo. Hopefully you can just see that. And did the proof of concept for him, which he was quite happy that he got a video of something working within 2 weeks. And then when I sent him the CAD to have the balls cut in half, he's like, bowling balls are only 8 inches in diameter, which is, and I just thought maybe US ones were smaller or something, because 8 inches is only, say, 20 centimetres, right? It's like, bowling balls are bigger than that, surely they're like... Anyway, he was right and I was wrong, so that was too big, and none of the mechanics fitted. I don't have the current mechanics because he took them away back to the US. But yeah, that's the pendulum. You'll notice in his video, in my video, it's this plastic and lead filled rattle. And in his video, it's made of steel. And even though this is lead, the steel one weighed more and had more mass, which gave it better control. Also, this one absolutely smashed to pieces. You'll notice there's stuff glued all over it where it broke at the bowling alley and lead shot is leaking out of it. Every time the ball fell off the end of the bowling alley at the back, another piece would break and we super glued it and more broke. The main thing you didn't see were all the prototypes. So for sort of a few weeks before, pretty much every few days, another set of bowling ball shells turned up. So that's one of them. We started with an axle so we could get ins for access at each side. There was some problems with the machining where we ended up with the other half of this. Matched the diameter, but it wasn't round because they made one out of a slightly larger ball, but they matched the diameter, and that meant one side of it was kind of like a weird, not a round shape, so that was scrap. I think that each time they cut a bowling ball in half, it cost about $700 as well, which of course Mark paid for. So there was that one. Then there was the one that broke the first time I tested it in a bowling alley, and that's the other half. The other half smashed to bits that had the access cap in. Then there was like another 3. There's the final one he took away, and there's another one downstairs, and then there's this one. So bowling balls, of course, are made of resin. They're made from the inside out. The shell isn't actually that strong. Obviously being solid helps it be strong, but when you hollow them out, it's actually really brittle. The first one I tried to drill into to put these the axle mount on, and a huge chunk just chipped out of the inside. It's like, I'm not sure what's going to happen here. And as it was the first time we hit pins at all, it just smashed to bits, which was in the video. So Mark had some made out of acetal, which is like a very expensive Delrin material. This is one of them. It's absolutely lovely. I mean, basically, he doesn't want these, and I don't really want loads of bowling balls in my house, but this one I think I'm going to keep. It's an amazing, completely engineered from scratch in a lathe out of a solid block of acetal. Cost about $1,000. It's got pins all the way around that align, and we had a captive nut fitted in, so I had a piece of studding that went through to actually fix the thing together to hold it. It's amazing. It would have been great, only it's 3/4 inch thick and it's really dense. It's much denser than the resin in the other balls. So what we found was the pendulum, made of about 2 kilograms of lead in some 3D printed plastic, wasn't enough to control it, so it just span randomly and ended up spinning axle over axle with an off-center mass in it, which tried to compensate automatically, and the whole thing jumped off the ground and did like bunny hops as it rolled along, and we couldn't use it. So there you go, $1,000 of custom-made acetal bowling ball. We just did 2 throws of it and we couldn't control it. So there we go, and I can't remember what he used in the end. I think it was an actual bowling ball cut in half in the end that was much lighter, and that was the final one that was shown. And most of that testing happened in Southampton in the UK at 10 Pin Southampton. Went there several times to get that video done, And they were very accommodating though, and let us go down the back and retrieve our own balls in the end, and gave us 2 lanes and cleaned all the oil off so it would roll properly. Because obviously if it slides it won't steer, because it's like aquaplaning in a car or a bike on water. So there's quite a lot more to it. But there we go. It's the magic of Mark Rober. We have to make it look good. So there we go. Hopefully his video will continue to gain views, and so will I, which is amazing. And I think really getting those subscribers in who haven't ever seen my content before, having a variety of good content that's not too dissimilar to his is quite a good strategy. At least a variety of interesting things that with explaining in, which is what I'm about to tell you more about. Good. Well, no one's commented in the chat that I've disappeared or I'm quiet or they can't see, so I'm assuming everything's good. Hooray. If you have questions, please comment and I'll answer them. There is about a 15-second delay between the stream and the thing because of all the gubbins in between. So, at least I think that's right. Still good. 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 So that's Mark Rober's bowling ball. Yeah, not too much else to say really. All Arduinos, or teensy in fact, and IMUs and fairly regular simple stuff. It was a pretty simple build actually in the end, and it was just basically one axis of BB-8. So if anyone's got any other ideas, someone did post about doing a dart board or a dart, but obviously Mark's already done the auto dart board where he throws a dart and it's tracked and the dartboard moves and catches the dart on a bullseye. If anyone's got any other ideas for things I could build that are like that, hacking sports, I don't think I can make an auto strike tennis racket, but if there's anyone who's got any ideas of something I can do, then I'd be open to suggestions, because actually basically I made it and it was pretty simple. Good, and that'd be kind of good content to do. So I do have this thing that I was pointed the camera at that I showed a preview to patrons. I'll be talking about that. It is a Nerf launcher. I'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, I'm going to talk about the video that's coming up for patrons on Tuesday or Monday, and goes out the week after the one about Mark Rober, which goes out on actual Tuesday publicly. And that was a picture of a 3D printed structure I posted on for patrons and for YouTube channel members. There's this. And as you can see, it's now got wheels on. Yes, it's another skateboarding project, but actually it's a carbon fibre project printed with a really massive nozzle. So Lolsbot sent me the HS 1.2 Plus hardened steel toolhead, which is, well, a hardened steel 1.2mm E3D Titan Aero based extruder. So it's like the Morse extruder, but you can print abrasive material like carbon fibre. So I did the video in fact has more detail. I did some tests between normal PLA and carbon fibre reinforced PLA, which Matter Hackers sent me. And they sent me 4 1-pound in weight reels and some of their tough PLA. So after doing the sort of bend tests, pulling with scales and seeing that basically the carbon fibre is about 20% more rigid, I decided I should make something. So I was going to kind of make this suspension bridge and then put it on blocks and put weight on it and see how strong it was. Now bear in mind the Morse extruder parts are pretty tough anyway with that nozzle, and this is carbon fibre reinforced and with a 1.2mm nozzle. Basically I couldn't break it, so then I thought we should just put wheels on it. I made it, I skate it, I think is going to be the title. Inspired by Braille skateboards, you made it, we skate it. And I did take it to a skate park and I still can't destroy it. It's probably the parts were overkill and it's all bolted through with 8mm studding. I did try to drop in, but I'm not very good at skateboarding, so it didn't go very well. But it's still in one piece. So there we go, that's going to be Tuesday's video. So obviously we've got the explaining part about why carbon fibre is good and the skateboarding piece at the ends. It's not electric, but it could be, of course. We've got all these cavities. It's all made of triangles, and obviously the print bed's not big enough to print the whole thing, so it's got multiple pieces that would be joints, but it's made rigid by the triangles. So there's 2 layers, but obviously we've got loads of space we could put batteries in, so we could just get some electric wheels and make an electric skateboard. I've probably done too many electric skateboard projects. It's pretty cool looking though. Good, so that's that. The week after is the Nerf launcher, which I'll talk about in a moment. Some questions, good, okay. Looks good, sounds good. Millbrook Bowling Alley, yeah, it's the one off that roundabout, Chris, which was the, you know, the 10-pin, not the Not Hollywood Bowl, they didn't reply. It's the poor man's one, I shouldn't say that, but the one by Screwfix. There you go. Yes, my version of Mark Rober's video is going out publicly on Tuesday, which is my regular slot for publishing. So it's going out on Tuesday morning UK time, same as all my videos. And yeah, patrons have that already, but that's the next video to go out. So it seems like a good idea while everything's hot. Yep. Good. What's next? Oh yes, so as you may know, Lolsbot support my channel and have done for years. And as you may have heard, Lolsbot ran out of money and laid all their staff off. They have been saved. So basically it looks like a venture capitalist or some venture capitalists have got some money. They've incorporated a new company. It seems to be, it's called Fargo 3D Additive. It seems to be something to do with Fuel 3D and some other similar sounding brands. And that was specifically to buy Lolsbot, it looks like, from Aleph Objects, which was the parent company. So I believe, although I can't confirm it, that Jeff Moe, the original founder, has sold out to, it appears, at least this new company, and the CEO, Grant, is still the CEO, and now there's another owner as well, and they're going to run the business together. So that's what I think is happening, at least what I can get from the press. I don't know if they're still supporting me. My YouTube channel header claims they are. I'm still waiting for clarity as to whether that's the case. Otherwise, I'll be looking at another company, maybe Prusa or someone, but, you know, nothing official yet on that, so we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm still just carrying on and seeing what happens. Good. What else have I got behind me? There's some Star Wars ships, you'll notice. There's some TIE fighters. Got a project coming up. Talk about that in a minute. And a target, which isn't one of the ones from Terminator. It's one with a piezoelectric element in, which is for that project as well. Let's throw some Nerf things down, some bowling ball parts down. So I'm going to talk about performance robots, and then I'll talk about OpenDog. So performance robots, haven't done an actual video about that, although I did do a video about the visor and the LED visor project. And I did do a video about, obviously, the visualizer, and all these things are for my stage show, as well as the barcode scanner guitar, which is to control the performance robots, which is really why I've been doing those little things. I'm doing more animations for the visor, and I'm also building more interfaces so that the public, the idea is the public can control the show. So what's coming up in another video sometime is more than this. 3 big encoders that children can't destroy, and in this box is an Arduino with an Ethernet shield. Also, where are we? Another big thing with pinball machine buttons on, or arcade buttons, and another Ethernet shield with an Arduino, and another one attached to a strip of ultrasonic transducers, which are distant rangefinders. So essentially you can wave your hand over it, it works out what the position of your hand is, filters it, and gives you a value of 0 to 255 for controlling analog controls. The Ethernet shield in those is using the OSC library to send OSC messages over the network, and those go into QLC, which is controlling the robots. So all of those interfaces can trigger things on my virtual console and trigger parts of the show. From QLC, I can come out with MIDI for a MIDI loopback into Ableton Live, which is the DJing or music production software I'm using. And so you can also use that to control the music and sound effects, as well as lighting and robotic motions. So that, along with the barcode scanner guitar, the webcam face tracking that I showed before, probably the Leap Motion, maybe Kinect sensing, all of that will come together. So I have a video about these interfaces and how it hangs together. Then there's a presentation video that will have both robots, the LED visualizer, the visor, the barcode scanner guitar, all of that all set up, like basically a stage rehearsal and a demo of how that all hangs together. And so that's the plan, and I've already got bookings actually for next year to actually go and do this at science-related, at least a science-related event. So basically anyone can walk in and control the show, or I can control it and DJ it. But essentially it's about education, it's about music technology, and so I'll be doing, you know, a talk there as well about STEM education. It's actually the V&A in Dundee, which is quite a modern museum, and they've got a robotics exhibition. It's going to be in February, provided I can drive there in the snow and ice. So it's quite a long way. It's back up there where I went to go to Dundee University for the same reason. But anyway, and hopefully I'll be doing more of that and obviously showing it on YouTube. There's more things to build for those. They need their hands, which will have illuminated handbacks and grippers so we can puppeteer them and people can do challenges as well. That's another video coming. And more cosmetic panels. That's pretty much what the purpose of those robots is, and hopefully some more YouTube collaborations. So that's what's happening with performance robots. It's basically everything linked together, and hopefully anything else I build of a similar nature can be integrated into that stage show for, you know, educational reasons, and basically as part of a touring robot show. Of course, with the YouTube builds and everything else. Right. Yes, the OpenDog. Let's talk about OpenDog. I don't know if there's going to be big changes. The whole thing is an ongoing R&D effort. So the last little bit of dog development I did was the plastic dog with the compliant springs that worked. In fact, it did what I thought it would do, which is rather good. Took a bit of effort to get there for testing it. OpenDog doesn't have legs that react like that because it has ball screws that are not back drivable, so doing the same sort of current limiting holding to simulate a spring isn't going to be possible. So the only way I can get the legs to act like that in a compliant way is to simulate springs with the rigid actuators. So what I said at the end of the last video was I was going to try and make good feet for OpenDog that, as well as having a switch where they know they're definitely on or off the ground, also have some sort of analog sensor in them. And then we'll give that data back to the control system and try and actively spring the legs by moving the actuators. And that's what I did with Robot X in one of the videos where I made it compliant, but that used the IMU. So if you tipped it over, it tried to kind of bend one leg and do what a human does to stop falling over, which helped make it stable a little bit. So we need to try and put that into OpenDog. However, it's quite square, so it doesn't really tip in the same way. So the IMU doesn't help me that much, and hence I need some foot pressure sensors. The whole thing weighs 50 kilograms though, so it's a bit of a challenge. We need more than a springy foot, I think. We could have quite tough suspension springs and measure the distance, but I don't know how well they'll centre. So the plan is, what I'm actually looking at, as well as multiple bits of paper that I'm writing down all the things I need to do with the code, how it might walk, lots of stuff, is to look at load cells, which is what's in weighing scales. Well, that's one of the options, and a load cell is a piece of metal with some wires attached and strain gauges. And essentially, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of got a hole in the middle, and you can flex it. And this one's rated at 20 kilograms, so you essentially are supposed to attach one end to something, the other end to a platform and push down on it, or put multiple versions of this along a platform to support a weighing platform. It's got a little amplifier board that goes straight out to an Arduino, and you can get a mixer that takes 4 of those and gives you one analog sensor if you want to use multiple ones. Is essentially to see if just attaching this to one of the aluminium, the 4 leg as it were, will allow me to measure how much load is on that foot, or whether I need to do something else that's more bendy. Just bending this by hand actually will give me quite a reasonable reading. So I'm hoping that'll work, or it's either that or I need to make a steel foot with it sort of mounted on that's strong enough to support all the weight of the OpenDog, which is about 50 kilograms in total. So with 2 feet off the ground, we need to be able to easily support 20 kilograms and get the right amount of deflection on this to give me a reasonable reading, as well as having an actual switch and a spring that disconnects from the ground and definitely says I'm on the ground or I'm off the ground. And when it's on the ground, then we can look at the analog reading. Hopefully when it's off the ground, we can recalibrate and set this to 0 each time as well, which there is a facility in the Arduino library to do so. So then hopefully I get a good analog reading out of the foot. I know whether they're definitely on the ground or not, and then I can go and actively drive the ball screws, or at least the Z-axis through the kinematic model and through interpolation, to actually make the legs act like springs. So as you push it one way, it should bend that leg slightly and then sort of dampen and rebound in the same way as the simulated dampened spring. So there's quite a lot of work to do. This looks pretty promising. I know Neil, who's on the live stream, also suggested a air pressure sensor based on an MPX 2010 DP, which I've got in this bag, which has literally got 2 hoses on it, and an analog out, I think, and it'll measure the air pressure between the two, so we could attach that to either side of a diaphragm and do the same thing, potentially, although I'm a bit sceptical about air leaks and actually making that diaphragm airtight, and also that then still has to be attached to something like a springy foot that will support all of the weight of OpenDog and, you know, give me a reasonable actual mechanical deflection that I can detect with this. So I'm a bit more sceptical about that than I am with bolting this on a piece of the leg that exists already. But nonetheless, that will be in the video. So the likely next video is actually more about these and about bolting them to bits of aluminium and stress testing them, perhaps putting one on OpenDog's leg. Or it's about what's written on this paper, which is essentially about not worrying about compliance with the ground and assuming the ground's flat. However, the dog is very unforgiving because of its rigid actuators. If it does tip and, you know, the control's not so good and the foot does hit the ground and push it, then it rebounds all over the place and everything, it loses its stability completely. Whereas if the legs were slightly springy, it'd be much more forgiving, like the test dogs. And there's two approaches here to how I think that would work. So one is essentially that we move the dog's body at a constant rate and 2 feet at a time pick up and come down, and then they sort of cycle round, and obviously the legs on the ground move backwards and then those pick up and come down. The rate at which it moves forward is very much like a two-wheel balancing robot. So if it starts to tip forward, that rate gets faster to pick itself up and so on, and that's controlled by the IMU. So I think that'll work if it can in fact have a good enough range of velocity to plus minus based on a PID controller attached to the IMU in the same way a two-wheel balancing robot works. The other approach is, how does that work if it's trying to walk on the spot? Well, if it starts to tip, it probably needs to take a step in that direction, and then what we could do is pretend it's tipping so it takes a step, which is actually how a two-wheel balancing robot works. Excuse me. So in that case, it's trying to keep its set point at 0 and balance. And if you wanted to drive, you set the set point to a fake set of degrees, or you offset the IMU so it thinks it's tipping over, and then it tries to hold a different angle. So I'm not really sure which is the right approach, but I think it'll be easier if the feet act like virtual springs, because then it's going to be much more forgiving. So in answer to should you build OpenDog, I don't recommend it at the moment because I've absolutely no idea what's going to happen. If I was starting it all again, I would definitely make back drivable joints and make them compliant in the way that I made those test dogs, because they're much more forgiving, and you can probably just fudge the numbers and have the two back legs pushing back a bit, and if it hits the ground unevenly, it doesn't push itself all over the place because the legs are acting like springs. And I'd make it lighter than 50 kilograms without all the ball screws in, which is basically most of the mass is coming from. So yeah, I mean, it is open source, but I don't necessarily think that you should spend the money on it at the moment, I guess is the honest answer. So there we go. 4th of July, oh, next year. Maybe, I don't know really. I mean, I am working on it actively. I've got, you know, tons of notes and things, but I can't make any guarantees really. What would be easier if it... So the reason I thought it would be not too hard is because I made Robot X walk on 2 legs. So I was like, 4 legs will be easy. I mean, we could probably make a gate that would have 3 legs on the ground at the same time, but still have to move that 4th leg pretty quick so it doesn't tip over. And then it's still going to be quite hobbly as it goes. To make it look properly dynamic, walking on points is very difficult. Obviously, Robot X had big flat feet. If I'd given OpenDog big flat square feet, then I think it would have been working ages ago, because it probably could have been statically stable with a little bit of IMU mixed in. So that is an option, but I haven't done that design for the extra ankle, and it would look a bit like a cartoon dog with massive feet walking along with big shoes on. But, you know, I guess it's possible. Which is an approach, but that's something you'd have to engineer yourself. Yes, as Bruce points out, the ground is never really flat, and even isn't flat in this room. There's a ridge down there where there's some beam that's gone through, and it's not even flat. So, yeah, it is challenging. It's much better if the legs can comply naturally, and then pretty much it doesn't matter, hopefully, or at least it's more forgiving, and it doesn't lose its stability completely. Oops, my screen's powered off. Reading the ground with a homemade LiDAR. Well, you can buy some quite cheap LiDARs actually, but you'd have to, yeah, scan it, work out if there's lumps and bumps, predict where the foot's going to go down. I guess it could be possible, and I think that the Boston Dynamics one looks at the ground ahead of it where it's about to walk. Apparently it adjusts its gait so its feet don't step on the lumps. If there's something it can see that's like a bit of wood lying across, it'll actually walk over it, and it adjusts before it gets there to make sure it does. I think that would work well if it were walking forwards, but actually scanning directly down is a bit more tricky, I guess, because the legs are in the way and, you know. I mean, in here it's essentially, I don't know what data you'd get out of a LiDAR. You'd have to do a 3D scan as well. Well, I guess you could scan in straight lines, although the legs move sideways, so interpreting the data and making it actively work is, I guess, the next thing that's challenging. I mean, a person can walk with their eyes closed because you can kind of feel the ground, and if there's suddenly a lump, you know, you comply with it. So that seems like the more biological way to do it, but I guess there's other options. You could put like distance sensors in the feet so it knows how far they're off the ground and as they get close to the ground, and there's all sorts of options, I guess. But ultimately making something that's biologically inspired and inherently spongy with the control within code. So actually, obviously, there's no actual springs in it, and there were no springs in the last one either. It was all active, essentially. It seems a good way to do it. Yes. Okay, so that's what's happening with OpenDog, which is that it's ongoing, and I won't be doing videos for the sake of it. I'll be doing it, you know, if you don't know if you watch Tom Stanton or one of those guys who does a whole video and all the conclusions in that video. I guess that's what I'm trying to do with robot dogs, and that's why a whole dog test dog got built in 2 episodes or something like that. So or even one, or no, the feet got done and then it got, yeah, in 2, and the previous one got done in 2, so that there's sort of a nice package of information rather than, and we're on part 20 and it still doesn't walk, which is what's happening with OpenDog, of course. Good, I'm going to talk about this Nerf blaster, which I finished filming today just about. Let's get rid of these bits of bowling ball. So, what we've got, it's a Nerf blaster, hooray! Look at that. It's a Nerf blaster, it fires 10 shots at once, which are all kept in the top here. You can just see that. Whoops, what was that? Right, and it's got this knob on the side that causes them to drop down, which I'll automate eventually, but for now it's manual. Now the front here, in here, there's 2 sets of rollers. There's a motor each side, which is like an electric Nerf dart gun, and it spits out 10 at a time. And these things, let's just lock that. I don't know if you can just see in the back there, there's 2 servos for each of those sets of 10 that shove out the Nerf darts. In fact, if I power it up, that's a sensible idea. Let's just flick this back up. Oops, got one jammed there. Let's power it up. I'll show you the mechanism, but I'm not going to fire any because it makes a mess. Right. Each time I hit this white button on top, shoves them out in order, and on the top, one of my motors hasn't powered up. Not sure why. There we go. So that is a 10 shot at once 50 Nerf gun. I'm just going to unplug. So I filmed that today with Matt Denson, Mantis Robot, giant Lego, and shot him in the eye and surprised him with it, and it's all very good. But yes, of course, it's one video, one package of information, building the whole thing, how it works, how the mechanics work, how the electronics work, and then a reveal, and that will go out in a few weeks, I think. I don't even know. I haven't decided whether it's going out. Oh no, yes, so it's going out either the 3rd or the 10th of December, and it will be up for patrons and YouTube channel members, of course, a week early. So that's what's happening there. Yes, Wayne says my room's very neat. It's not terrible. I've actually tidied up. The other end's been tidied up quite a bit because it was a graveyard for loads of old projects, so I've bought more shelves. But yeah, it's getting a bit tight in here. I need to look on the back shelf and get rid of some things, I think. There's still lots of old projects there, which is hard to get to because of the engine hoisting in the front of them. Yes, I have considered getting someone else to help with OpenDog just to write the code, but I actually really like to make it work on my own. Simulating the physics could be done with a piece of physics simulation. You can get like simulation software, but I'm not sure if actually recreating it in there and the time it would take to simulate it would take excuse me, take longer than it would just for me to experiment. Someone else would definitely have to do it because I don't know how to do it for a start, which I'd probably have to pay for unless there was someone really local. But I think it would be very hard to simulate because you'd have to simulate all of the mass of all of the mass distribution essentially, and the power of every axis and everything else. So it'd be quite a lot of work. Yeah, I guess, I mean, the thing is open source, so I don't know how... I mean, I guess anyone could do it if they wanted to, pretty much. I'm not sure if anyone wants to, though, but there we go. I think probably anyone seriously building a robot dog wouldn't even approach it this way. They'd do it the way that I would have done it had I done it now, which is to make all the joints compliant anyway, in which case it'll be a much quicker... be much quicker progress to getting it up and walking. So if I'd made the test dogs had slightly stronger legs and I could have put the other axis in, we probably could have got them walking along in about 3 videos as opposed to 20. So most of the problem is how heavy it is and how rigid it is. But yeah, simulation would be good, but I think that that's in itself a lot of work. So there we go. Yeah, so let's talk about Star Wars spaceships. I've got Kylo Ren's TIE Silencer. I've got 2 other TIE fighters, Hasbro ones. These are really cheap now. They're much sort of reduced. They were sort of 40 to 60 pounds, I think, new. Now they're 15 pounds on Amazon. So far, I have 8 of these, and I have 8 of these, and I have 1 Kylo Ren TIE Silencer, and soon enough I'll have another 7, and that makes 24 TIE fighters. And what the plan is to build retro Space Invaders in real life, mechanically, Star Wars themed. So we're going to have a huge rack of 24 TIE fighters that goes up and down, and I'm going to be using a robotic base I already have for that, which was, for anyone who remembers, a project I was doing for Legend of Zelda, which was a Guardian robot, which was the big tentacly thing. I built a big robot base. That project ended because the person I was doing it with moved to Denmark. And so I still have this robot base, and it's got swerve steering where the wheels, it's got basically 2 wheels that can drive around like R2-D2 or whatever, or a tank, but they also rotate so that it can sort of snake while facing in the same direction. So that's ideal because Space Invaders, of course, the Space Invaders move along the top of the screen and then they kind of get closer. So it gives us the ability to drive closer and closer. So it's going to be about 3 meters long and about 1 meter and a bit deep, with 3 rows of 8 TIE fighters on it. Along the front are some targets, probably with Imperial logos on instead of World War II, you know, whatever. And this is a piezoelectric element and an Arduino with some debounce. So we can have 8 targets along the front. In each of the TIE Fighter windows will be a NeoPixel ring, which will be illuminated white, so they'll all be white. As you shoot the target on the front, the first one will go red, then the next one will go red, then the next one will go red. So it's just like Space Invaders getting shot or whatever. I can't make them disappear, unfortunately. And there'll also be at least 4 automated Nerf guns on the front that shoot back at you. On the other side, we'll have someone in a modified office chair that only rolls sideways with electric wheels, and a joystick so they can steer sideways and they can go up and down, and a post stuck between their legs with one of those really big Nerf guns on with the massive magazine in, shooting back the other way. They also have a target, a much bigger one, that the Space Invaders shoot at, and they've got a 6-inch LED score that counts 3, 2, 1, just like the lives or the score in Space Invaders. In the middle is a stack of beakers or white cups or something to represent the houses that get shot down, probably with logos on or something like that. And that's it. And then it's all basically controlled. It's a real game you can play, all with targets that take the scores, turn out the TIE fighters, and knock your lives down as you shoot at each other. So there'll be a build video, but first of all the actual operational machine video will go out, hopefully hoping to shoot this in January sometime. And I think I'm going to get like cosplayers to do it, so we'll have someone in an X-Wing cosplay operating the gunner's chair, and hopefully someone dressed as Kylo Ren or Darth Vader operating the TIE fighters, going up and down and shooting the guns. Might get out the multi-shot Nerf thing and hang it up and put it in a Death Star to shoot at everyone at the end. Haven't quite decided how to make the Death Star, or whether I even need to. So I think that will be one reveal video, then there'll be a build video. So that is the plan for all these TIE fighters, which I'll then need to get rid of at the end. It's not a bad toy for £15. I do need to drill holes in them all, unfortunately, to put the lights in, and mount them up on a massive rack of sticks. But that is a video for next year. Good. Right. Wayne says, why not change? I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Are we talking about why my room's so tidy? I can, not sure. Takeshi's Castle with games like this in it, yeah, so there could be more things like that. I'd like to do more sort of installation stuff to show off the projects. I thought the Terminator thing would do better, but the reactions, they were genuine people, unfortunately, so the reactions are what they are, and those were all the people, and really they weren't, the team of 4 were quite good, but the others weren't that good. I think with hindsight I'd probably get actors. I don't even know if anyone's reactions in reaction shows are real now, because real reactions aren't that good. So yeah, but we could do definitely more stuff that's sort of, maybe there's more to it. So you've got, you know, you have to solve a puzzle and then a robot shoots at you or something. But I haven't got any more plans for stuff like that with the performance robots just yet, unless something really suitable comes up. Couldn't really not do a, you know, a Terminator thing. Let's just read the chat. Oh, Wayne says start over. Open Dog. Yes, I might. I mean, basically, if I can't make this work, I will do Open Dog version 2, based on the research I've done, you know, and those findings. And if you think about it, I'm only one person. I don't know how many discarded dog's legs Boston Dynamics have got. Probably quite a few. So, you know, to get there, and all the money and multiple people working on it. So, you know, yeah, it may well be that I just end up giving up and doing a static gate where I've upped the gear ratio, because of course we've got that 2-to-1 belt reduction at the moment. I'm only running the motors half the voltage they could go, half the speed. I can get 4 times the velocity out of those joints if I really have to. It may just be it takes one leg off the ground at a time and walks like a dog. And it does it quick before it can fall down. And that's it. And then I get rudimentary motion, and then I go on and make something else that is more dynamic. Why not? But I'm quite committed to getting this to work, because people have been watching it for 20 videos now. Good. Where are we? What haven't I mentioned? Star Wars, Nerfs, we've done that. Oh yes, I've got this thing coming up that's it's a paid promo, and it's for a real exosuit. Haven't got any more details at the moment, but that's coming up later this year or early next year. I think it's scheduled in to visit them in December. Not quite sure what to expect at the moment, but there we go. Oh yes, I completely forgot. 2 actors, yes. We'll see. I have to actually make it first and check that it works. Then, but yes, I might recruit people, potentially. Or I might just get a production company. Like there's some guys called Sneaky Zebra who do the cosplay music videos. Have a check out of their channel. And they do short movies, so I'm going to try and get them to help me film and produce it and edit it. And they've got lots of people who've got good... In fact, one of them has an X-Wing cosplay, in fact, so we'll see how it goes. Don't know where I'm going to film it yet. I need a sports hall or something. So there we go. The place we shot that Transformers thing with the traffic warden is in Northampton. That'll be ideal. But anyway, it's all up in the air at the moment. So if I need help, I'll let people know who live nearby. So yes, on the floor here, It's BB-8, but not just any BB-8. It's, turn my screen around so I can see. It's BB-8 version 1, which, if you remember, was the ball balancing robot that had wheels. The ball was empty apart from some ball bearings I ended up putting in there to fudge it. It's the one with the Omni wheels and the motors, which balanced on the ball. Oh, I can zoom this in. Oh, there we go. So, this is one of the first Arduino projects I ever built, was a ball balancing robot. 4 Omni wheels, so I didn't have to do any trigonometry or any vectoring, so that there's 2 that drive that way and 2 that drive that way. And obviously they've got Omni little rollers around them so they can slide the other way. What have we got? An Arduino Uno, some with hot glue on, holding all the wires in. This is actually, whoops, I'm trying to get some focus on this. Some sort of motor driver, a radio control receiver, an IMU that I had to do my mixing on before I discovered the MPU 6050 with a level matcher. There's another Arduino Nano, which I think is something to do with the remote control, and a remote control receiver, and it just about worked. Didn't really know what I was doing then. The motors have no encoders on, they're just DC motors, which was one of the main problems, and the IMU is using a complementary filter, which was my other problem. Obviously I've made things much better than that now, like the LG balancing robot, which worked very well. So my plan is to not make another BB-8, because I've already done 3, and BB-9E, but to make a custom Star Wars droid, just so I can put Star Wars in it, which doesn't look anything like that. So what I'm actually going to do is repurpose the ball. See if I can do this without pulling the HDMI cable out. Whoop. Good, repurpose the ball, take the Omni wheels, use the brushless motors, like the ones I used in the dog, and the Nerf gun thing, which actually the Nerf gun needs the motors upgrading to faster ones, so I can get 2 back from that. And in fact those are the same 4 out of the last test dog. Put the Omni wheels on, use O drives with encoders, use an MPU 6050, same as the LG robot, and then it should be easy to make a pretty decent ball balancing robot. I'm going to repurpose this ball by getting the ball bearings out of it and repaint it probably a dark colour. This is a polystyrene ball with, which I painted with latex and acrylic paints, so I can paint over that. It's nice and rubbery, the wheels grip really well. Probably still go for 4 wheels. It's a really simple way to do it. 4 brushless motors with the wheels straight on there, and try and see if I can do a much better job, and I should think it will be much more stable, and it should work fine. It should work as well as LG, just in 2 axis with the 2 axis of the IMU. And basically it's going to be a taller tower, so of course the later BB-8s I made used magnets to stick the head on, and all the mechanism was in the ball. But ever since making this I've wanted to revisit it and make a better ball balancing robot that actually balances with a really tall head. So if you can imagine like a Star Wars droid, like a probe droid, and it's got little arms that stick out either side that pop out with grippers on or something like that. So it'll be like that, but a tower with LED strips running round, a big radar eye on the front, a sort of flattish head with some gubbins on, like some of the BB droids that look like their heads cut open and they've got a sort of open top. Probably about that size with the wheels. And so it'll be kind of a custom Star Wars droid that balances, but it's actually ball balancing. And that's going to be one of the projects I'm already thinking about for next year, and getting parts and so on together. So that is another, in lieu of OpenDog working properly, another kind of interesting, you know, balancing, active, dynamic electronics, nice robot, and a nice piece that I'll keep and won't break down. I've still got LG downstairs, although I did take the O drive out, but there we go. So that's going to be for next year. I'm going to try and use Star Wars on it, but it'll be probably a video of the build and look at balances, and then one for finishing, and it'll be 2 videos, not 20. So again, a sort of short package of information. Good. I think that's everything I've got down. Oh no, there's another thing. So I saw recently about using PLA sort of inserts in a hydraulic press to actually bend steel, to put a lip in around a hole in steel. I think it was a Lolsbot video actually. So then I was thinking about, could I do compound bends in thin aluminium with basically 3D printed dies? So basically sort of like a plug and a negative, and crush a piece of aluminium in and use PLA as the actual formers essentially for maybe 1.5mm aluminium sheet. And what could I make out of that with compound bends? So that's something I'm going to be investigating as well. I don't really want to make another Iron Man suit, but it'd be pretty cool to make it out of aluminium, formed, with all the pieces formed with 3D printing. So we'll see, or something else. I'm pretty sure there's other things other than Iron Man I can make. If anyone's got any suggestions for projects, what's coming up? Sonic the Hedgehog. I was going to try and make a running Sonic the Hedgehog, but I don't think I really want to, because if I can't make four legs work, it probably won't work. There's also Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out, which is a computer game, but it's Keanu Reeves looking character, who's he also did the motion capture and the voice, I guess, for the computer game. If anyone has any ideas for things I can realistically build in 1 or 2 videos that I can actually make for either of those, then that'd be cool. Let me know. Yeah, I think I've gone through everything now. So yes, lots of stuff coming up, and channel strategy is really not to drag it out and to do videos when they're ready. And I've got enough things that I can keep making the videos still weekly is the plan, without, you know, here's part 10 and I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So there we go. At least not before Open Dog's finished. Right, good. I think that's all I've got, actually. And we've done 55 minutes and my stream's still connected and no one's saying they can't hear me. So this seems pretty good. Let's just hope that YouTube carry on supporting this streaming setup. Good. And I think that's all that's in the chat. But if anyone's got anything, any more questions, anything you want to have a closer look at, post it in the chat. You can, of course, message me afterwards on Patreon, or post it on my Patreon or YouTube community wall. I actually weirdly don't get notifications for YouTube wall comments, so I have to manually look. Right, sorry, a message has popped up on here. Oh, insufficient network bandwidth. Hopefully I'm still connected to the internet and everyone can hear me, otherwise I don't know that I've gone. I am still connected to the internet and hopefully everyone can hear me. Oops, that's my own stream. Right. No, it looks like it's all good. Good, yes. Any questions? Otherwise I'm just going to sit here and continue to fill the time. Everyone's still here. Good. Any questions? Let me know. Or anything you want to see. Otherwise, in a few moments, that will be the end of this stream. Glad it's working. This is pretty good. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm just going to talk about one more thing, which I just remembered I was supposed to put on the list. Who remembers Mini Flying Iron Man Dude, who wouldn't stop spinning round? We almost got it to fly straight with the guys from Gravity controlling it, but even they couldn't stop it spinning round. And I was going to, we got as far as putting FPV in it and having actual controllers with IMUs in that move its arms. I've actually spent some time with Gravity, including doing that Gravity shoulder mount gun. There's a reason this is never going to work. And I can't say too much, but Gravity themselves might have made something that has similar fixed axis in that's a lot bigger, which also spins around, and that's about all I can say. So I'm pretty sure this is never going to work. And the conclusion is basically that when you're flying a jet suit, obviously they do it intuitively and they didn't really think about this. As well as being able to move your arms like this, you can also move them like this. It's sort of linearly, which is how they can balance, and they can also vector and twist. And when you've only got the ability to pivot your arm at the shoulder, you can't move in a linear fashion anymore. And that's why both things that work like that won't stop spinning round. and hence there's been no further video, because it probably will never work without significant re-engineering. Just from the nature of having to build that triangle with the back and the two arms to try and balance, and be able to balance and be able to vector to stop twisting. So that's what's happening with that, which is nothing, because we'll never ever make it work, I think. At least unless they happen to come up with a revelation. So just to say that. Any thoughts on copper? Copper is this the regulation, so it's basically not YouTube's fault. What's happened is the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the US, has decided that basically you can't, or at least I think they've already fined YouTube, because you can't track children online with cookies and stuff. So if content is specifically made for kids, they have to turn all the tracking off, which means they can't deliver targeted advertising on those videos. So as a YouTube creator, now you have to declare whether your content is made for kids or is not made for kids. If it's made for kids, the rumour is you'll lose a ton of ad revenue, because they won't be delivering targeted ads against that video anymore. And if you declare it's not made for kids, but it might be made for kids, then you can get fined some $480,000 in the US. I'm not in the US, but I'm still pretty sure YouTube are going to start doing policy breaches and stuff if you do a video made for kids, and declare it's not made for kids. So you can declare on a case-by-case basis whether the content's made for kids. I've said none of my content's made for kids, because ultimately it isn't really targeted specifically at kids. It's difficult because, you know, kids could watch anything, but then they could watch anything, so yeah, it's a challenging one. For now, I've just said my content's not for kids. We'll see what happens when I put out my Nerf gun video, but probably nothing, I'd have thought. Well, yeah, so I guess like some channels it's easier if it's some in-depth electronic engineering channel like EEV blog. He's saying it's not for kids, which I think he's justified to do. If it were a Nerf gun only channel, there's some which just every video is about Nerf guns, then you probably have to say it's made for kids, which probably means they'll lose a ton of ad revenue. But ultimately, it's not YouTube's fault. They just have to comply with the law, which is you can't track kids under 13. So it's a tricky one, but there you go. In reality, a rather small amount of money comes from YouTube ads at the moment, mainly because my views are so poor. The majority of it comes from Patreon and YouTube channel members, and basically from sponsored videos. So not really sure what to do. I guess we'll have to see how it goes, and if anything happens at all, whether they start looking for videos with Nerf and things like that in the title, and start saying, you know, whether they get pulled or demonetized, and then we'll have to look at it again, really. But, you know, it's difficult to say what's targeted at kids, or how far it has to be targeted at kids. So that's what's going on. So we'll see what happens. There's quite a few videos out there and things already. So but ultimately, that's the law. Well, at least in the US. I'm pretty sure there is a UK law, actually, because when I worked in the toy industry, I think it was some company that made, or there was some website that was specifically about some toy, can't remember what it was, something like Moshi Monsters or a website like that, which did had tracking cookies, and they got fined lots of money. So yes, it's hard to be, you could swear in every video, but then also Dave Jones of EEV blog got loads of stuff demonetized for swearing in every video and in the title. So, you know, you can't, that's the thing. If you declare it's for over 18s, then also they don't give you so much ad revenue, because lots of advertisers don't want to advertise against mature content. So it's difficult, really. It's pretty much nothing left. It's either family friendly. There's got to be some tiny middle ground where you can get all the ad revenue. If it goes towards too young audience, you can't have it. And if it goes too mature, you can't have it. Difficult. Partial nudity, yeah. It probably will affect the wrong subscribers. You could do, I mean, you know, I don't think your content's made for kids though, the Mad Maker. I think that it's not. But kids could watch it and enjoy it, and some kids would enjoy wood turning and everything. So it's you know, I don't think it's made for kids though. I think my content's more borderline made for kids when I'm doing giant Nerf guns and, you know, Star Wars droids and stuff, so it's difficult. Right. Yes, I mean, if it's a serious design channel and that's all you do, then I think you're justified to say it's not made for kids. But it's difficult if you want the keywords and the trends for like games and movies. But then is Cyberpunk 2077 aimed at under 13-year-olds? I don't think it is. I think it's going to have a 15 or an 18 rating on it, maybe. I don't even know. It's got like cyborgs killing each other, so maybe if you use those themes, you know, then maybe it's not. Right. Yes, I know a bunch of kids who like my stuff, that's the thing. But is it made for kids, or is it just they like it? It's difficult. It depends how much YouTube enforce it. Or whether they're just happy with your legal declaration it's not made for kids, and they say it's not my fault. They blame it on you and then you get fined. Yes, I don't think anyone has to quit watching. I don't think kids have to quit watching, but there you go. I think everyone will just keep watching. And I think unless you're actually like doing, here's a toy review, then maybe you're justified to say it's not for kids. But we'll have to feel it out and see how it goes. Right, good. I think that's the end of the stream. Thank you all for watching. I'm glad it's gone smoothly and all the equipment is working. And hopefully it was in great clarity. I'll be, you can of course watch it back with the same link if you missed the beginning. So I will be checking out what it looked like and seeing if we'll do it like this again. Hopefully we will. Good. Okay, that's the end. Thank you again. See you soon. If you've got any questions, you can just send me a message on Patreon or post it somewhere on one of the walls. Good, okay. It looked good, I'm glad. Thanks. Thanks, yep. I will continue doing everything I do as well. Great, right. Thank you very much. I've got to work out how to stop this now. The box has got a button on, I think stops and starts the stream, so I'm going to press it now and see what happens. Where's my live control room? Let's see what happens now.